Welcome to the Computer Repair Podcast, episode number 269. I'm your host, Jeff Halash. This is our live show where we discuss the ins and outs of running your computer repair business. Computer Repair Podcast is brought to you by Kabuto, the lightweight RMM solution created for residential MSP businesses. Get your free 30-day trial at repairtechsolutions.com/Kabuto. And also by FreshBooks, the simple pain-free invoicing solution for freelancers and small business owners. For a 30-day free trial, just go to freshbooks.com/Podnutz. Enter Podnutz in the How Did You Hear About Us section. Let me introduce the co-hosts. We have Brad Torrey from TTCS Computer Services. How you doing, Brad?
Well, I'm in the lovely recovery phases of a cold, which means that my voice is a little bit deeper, a little sexier. So I'm doing pretty good. I feel better now. So
awesome. We love sexy voices on this show, that's for sure. And also, as soon as he gets his setup, we have Amit Mehta from TechVoo, and he's logging in now.
Hey, how are you?
Hey, good. How you doing, Amit?
At this point. Good, thank you.
Are you in the car?
I am. This was on my calendar for an hour off because of the time zone. So I will be in front of video probably in about 20 minutes.
No problem. You know what? You can stay right on here and go ahead and share in the conversation. So today we're going to talk about, and I didn't mention it at the beginning, but we're going to talk about artificial intelligence. And this was something that Amit brought up and wanted to talk about. And I'm interested, as Brad is, in where he's going to go with this. So we're along for the ride a little bit, but we're going to have fun with this topic and see what we can do with it. All right, so let's go ahead and take care of some quick business, and then we'll get into some things here. First of all, I want to let you guys know in the greater Chicago area, we're going to have the IT Owners Compass event coming up. Get help in navigating your IT business. It's August 24th through the 26th, 2018 in Chicago, Illinois. This event is presented by Lori Tisnai from Computer Concepts USA and Matt Rodella from TechSite Builder. Two of the people in the community that love to give back, and they put some great things together for you. We have an awesome keynote speaker, Mike Michalowicz, author of Profit First, The Pumpkin Plan, and Toilet Paper Entrepreneur. We also have your peers and industry experts that you would be able to collaborate with and learn. This is unlike any convention you have been to. We have everything in one spot: hotel, venue, and a boat ride. Yes, the boat ride's like literally 700 feet away from where we're going to be. So when I say all in one area, it's all in one area, downtown Chicago. Did I mention that some of your favorite podcasters will be there to meet in person? Mike Smith, Marvin B., Paco LeBron, John Dubinsky, and of course, me. I know I was the only really important one on that list, but hey, it is what it is. No, I'm excited to come down to Chicago area again. I've been down there for many, many years, going back and forth. I've got family in the area, and it's definitely going to be exciting to go down to an event down in that area and hang out with all of you. Now, get your tickets and reserve your hotel room at the venue now. When I say this, I am not kidding, people. And I don't know if I'm allowed to share how many tickets we've sold. Just put it this way. We're over halfway there. Get your tickets now. They are selling out. There's a lot of people. If you've ever thought about coming to an event like this to learn from other peers in this industry and to learn from other people and to be able to collaborate, this is the event that you want to come to. I kid you not. And I don't heavily endorse things unless I 100% believe in them. This one I will be at. This one I believe in. And I'm just telling you, get your tickets now. Go to itocompass.com right now. Get your tickets. Get your hotel room. Stay at the hotel room that's attached to the conference center. It's going to be a phenomenal time. We will hang out. I'll hang out with whoever wants to hang out. And a lot of us are going to do that. So we're going to be there for you, the listener, to get to meet us and also to be able to learn how to take your business to the next level. All right. Brad, let's go ahead and start with you today. And why don't you share a tip or story that we could learn from?
Well, first of all, if you're watching the live video, my office is looks like a disaster of a mess right now, but it's just because I'm in the middle of inventory, and I keep you know, 6-inch, 1 foot, 2 foot, 3 foot, 5 foot, 7 foot network cables in stock, and I carry them around with me everywhere I go. And each of them always comes in handy, and so I got to keep track of those, so that I don't lose my mind when I'm ordering from Monoprice. And Repair Shopper is excellent for that. If you're not using some kind of inventory module, I recommend that you do. It's kind of a pain. It seems like a pain to like keep track of all this crap, but then when you do and you tell it how many of each thing you want to keep on hand and when to reorder, when you do go to make an order, you just go to like in the case of Repair Shopper, you just go like, I need to order things from Monoprice, and it's like, well, here's all the stuff that according to the rules you should order, and you look at it and you go, oh yeah, I do need those things, and then it's great. So that's one excellent use of Repair Shopper, and I'm sure other inventory systems are just as great doing that kind of thing. Also, I mentioned on a very long ago show that I was working on a TV surveillance camera like viewing wall project, where there's a restaurant group that has multiple locations, and they have security cameras all over all of their locations, and then at the home office they wanted to like monitor these things, and they wanted big TVs up on the wall in the main office to like display all these cameras, and they wanted to keep an eye on their business. So we went with the Azul PC sticks and put those through HDMI to the TVs, and it was pretty great. Problems. One, the electrician didn't wire it in a way that I could easily battery backup these things. So they weren't on battery backup, which meant that they weren't, like, if there was a power surge in the building, which at this particular location there are frequently, they would just go off, and I'd have to get on a ladder and go reboot them by pushing the power button. That's annoying. So I fixed that. One of them I was testing, so I ordered 2 different models. I ordered the one with a LAN, like wired connection, and then the rest of them were just Wi-Fi. And because of price, customer chose to use the Wi-Fi ones. It was only a difference of like $20, but it was enough. Definitely would have gone with LAN, like wired connections on all of them, but that means running cable and stuff. And then all camera software is garbage. It doesn't matter what manufacturer it is. It seems doesn't matter what brand. Like, it's Windows-based DVR camera software is all crap, and it's unreliable. It crashes. It's poorly written. It doesn't manage its own memory very well. So now I'm faced. So basically, it's been a nightmare. If somebody asks you to do this, either say no, I'm not going to do this for you because I don't want us to get into a position where you hate me, or just be prepared to like check on it every day. You got to remote into these things and relaunch the software and set up the views again. I am working on trying to figure out a way to automate a reboot so that daily they reboot and the software loads, and then it loads the screen that I want. I've been talking to a developer, and he's like, yeah, I don't know. Without the source code, I can't help you. I'm like, okay, cool. Anyway, so that's kind of been a disaster. But they do like having it. Anyway, so if there's a tip in there, it's if you can stay in your wheelhouse, great. Expanding outside of your wheelhouse lets you kind of learn, but also gives you the opportunity to have like kind of tenuous relationships with your customers as you figure things out. But yeah, that's what I've been dealing with mostly this week is that thing.
Now, what brand surveillance system were you using?
Well, so before I joined with them, the previous their AV guy was using QC cameras. And they're basically like an off-the-shelf Home Depot brand, but he's getting them from his distributor, and they were telling him to do it. But the video quality's fine. Their stability's, they're fine. Their software hasn't been updated in 3 years. The Windows application it's dated from 2014. So it's like, all right, so you guys care a lot about this, obviously. And it crashes out daily. Like the Windows application is a C++ application that doesn't manage memory, and needs the whole PC and the software needs to be rebooted daily. It's not meant for permanent video, surveillance, which is like, yeah, but that's why we bought surveillance cameras, right? Like, why would you not support that? It's crazy. So QC cameras are fine, but their Windows platform sucks. They do have good support, actually, which is weird. I called them expecting a nightmare, and actually had talked to a human being, and they were helpful. Although they're helpful to the point of being like over helpful. They're like, hey, we will help you with this, and I'm like, no, you won't. You won't be able to fix this. And they were very enthusiastic, but then they ultimately were like, yeah, no, we can't fix this. I prefer Hikvision cameras. Their software's better, but it's not, leaps and bounds better. But they do support it. It's current. It's a current edition. They actually update it on basically they follow along with the Windows update cycle, and they update it. So I also like that with the Hikvision cameras, you can use their cloud, and like somebody can create their own account, and then you can share camera access to their account, and you can manage the shares. Like it's a lot more of a it's better for sharing control, especially when you have like managers kind of coming and going with restaurants. You can manage that a lot cleaner. So anyway, that was long.
And the whole reason I asked that question is because this goes down to, again, a lot of people that are buying things off of, I don't know, Amazon, and a lot of these Chinese companies that are making these products that they're not supporting software wise or hardware wise, firmware, whatever, doesn't really matter. I'm almost wondering if we need to start pushing our customers to a point where we go, you can have surveillance. Here's what it's going to cost you. Okay. If you do it this way, here's what it's going to cost you if you do it your way, which basically means you're going to pay me a lot to be out here all the time fixing your problems. And you're also going to have to fix stuff on the fly in order to do that. Or we spend a little bit more money for a system that's supported, and we use that system, even though the upfront cost is going to be a lot more. And the reason I say this is I know companies like SnapAV, they have all that kind of stuff. I've never tested any of their stuff out. I use the Arachnus products and stuff as far as the networking stuff. But they do have all this other equipment that I probably need to grab some of this stuff and actually test it out. I mean, you got 60 days to test this stuff out. So,
yeah, I like. I've got some Arachnus switches that I'm very happy with. I have a ton of watt boxes. So the overseas stuff, all that family is, from my experience, very high quality and very reliable. And the overseas system works really well. I really enjoy that aspect of it. So, and actually that was on, I was kind of jotting down notes of like, if we got stuck, what I was going to talk to you about, and the overseas was on that list because it's saved my butt a couple times this week. It's a great system. I'm sure that their surveillance products are excellent as well. But yeah, what you were saying about customer wants to do surveillance, you can do it this way or you can do it this way. When I have that conversation, they're like, hey, so I'm just going to run down to Costco and I'm going to grab a Swan kit. And I'm like, okay, cool. You have fun with that. I will not touch that. I'm not going to have anything to do with it because it's going to be a terrible experience for you. And I don't want to have, I'm not going to take part. Like, it's not about money. It's about, I don't have time to troubleshoot the issues that are going to happen, because I've been down that road. A buddy of mine installed his own Swan system at his business, and then we spent the next 2 weeks managing the bad, false motion updates, emails, and he was getting blasted. His phone was just like constantly beep, beep, beep. It was killing his phone battery because it was falsely coming up with motion detection updates because they're underpowered infrared, lenses and stuff. So just find a quality system and install it. Don't support off-the-shelf garbage because it'll ruin you. Or charge a lot. You'd be like, look, this is going to cost you way more.
Well, that's what I was thinking. I'm thinking, right? I'm like going, I'm with you. I don't want to waste a bunch of time. I'd rather use something that works. But here's the reality. I don't know, $1.25, $1.50 an hour. We could spend 20, 30, 40, 50, 60. It doesn't matter to me. That's like a good payday right there. Or you can just go spend a few $1,000s on a quality system and not have to worry about it. Anyway, I don't want to keep going down this rabbit hole.
Yeah.
Amit, I know we've kept you on the line.
Yeah, hopefully he's had time to get where he's going.
But
what's funny is as you guys are talking, I'm feverishly plugging things in, getting myself on the computer instead of the phone. So
you go with that, and we'll come back to you in a minute.
Yeah, give me just maybe a minute. Perfect.
So anyways, Brad, I was saying that the one thing about this stuff is a lot of times you walk into these situations where somebody's already put a surveillance system in, and then they go, hey, can you hook this up to my phone? And you go to said manufacturer's website and go, yeah, it says you can. I mean, I can open a couple ports on the switches and I could do what I do. Download the program and I don't know, see if it works.
Yeah. And it depends. So I have my customer, they've got 8 locations and 8 of them have this QC thing. So yeah, all right, I will figure out how this works well, because it's worth now the time. And actually they have a cool thing where you don't have to open the ports. And a lot of this is not new. A lot of companies have adopted this method where they have kind of a cloud setup. And if you just get the serial number off of the device, it's always phoning home. If it gets an internet connection, it calls home. And if you can get the serial number off the device, then you can get it through their cloud thing, and you don't have to open up ports on the router, which I do think is more secure and it's a better way to go. So also it's easier when you're telling somebody how to set it up. You're like, hey, just type in this serial number instead of going, okay, so it's going to be http / or / blah blah blah, and then the port number and all this. You're like, no, just type in the serial number and it works. Anyway, I see we've stalled well. Amit's here.
Yeah. Sorry, you would think time zones would be something I would have negotiated by now, but
yeah, the internet's supposed to figure this out for us, right?
Yeah. So yeah, I appreciate it. Thank you.
So Amit, you look like you just came from a meeting or something.
It was a family event. I figured I would have a little while to change, but no, we're good. I like diving right in. This is good.
Hey, it's always good to come on a show and look better than the host. That's all I'm saying.
I mean, I like that logo. I do not have a cool logo like that, so I'm sporting a tie. It's best effort here.
So, not to throw you on the spot, but do you have a tip or story for us that we could learn from?
I think a lot of the listeners probably resell Microsoft services, and so CSP is something that was probably a buzzword maybe a year ago or so. But I can tell you from our transition that if you do resell Office 365, Azure, and those products, certainly go to a CSP program. It's been good in terms of managing internally customers. You can set your own price levels and all of that. And even the tax piece. Actually, before it was a pain in the neck to try to get the resale tax removed, and now through CSP program, it's all natural. It works and is better for margins and everything. So I highly suggest, for those of you that don't do it, you should consider it, reselling 365. And those that do, if you're not in the CSP model, I think it's worth going to.
Okay, now you should know me well enough by now that I'm going to ask you, what the heck does CSP mean?
Yeah, I'm sorry. I should have. What's funny? I don't know what the acronym is. But
See, this is what we do, people.
in true Google fashion, I'm gonna make sure I look it up and tell you. So it's
what's the difference between
cloud solution provider? Sorry,
cloud solution provider. Okay.
Okay, so the difference is this. Before, it used to be you could go on in behalf of your clients and you sign them up for Office 365, and you're supposed to have them pay for it, right? And you provide the service. So in the cases where we resell it as a managed service, so we charge more, right? So if it's $5, we charge $8, that sort of thing.
Right.
There was no easy path to do that other than to maintain as many number of customers as we had, that many login information, and then it would come up on our own credit card because we have to set billing to us so we can resell it. So then I have, like, on our company credit card, like, dozens of charges from Microsoft, not knowing which $4 charge and $8 charge goes to which customer. It's a mess, right? So now from SureWeb, you pay a few $100s a month or a couple $1,000s a month, depending on how many customers you have. And it's one charge in the dashboard, like that. We use SureWeb, but there's many out there. It's all together in one place, and it's fantastic. So if you resell these sort of services, it consolidates it and makes it easier for you to manage.
Absolutely. I agree with you. Yeah, there's companies like SureWeb, AppRiver. There's probably many more.
Titan and all those, yeah.
Yeah. So I agree with you. That to me, even when they started selling Office 365 for managed services, I looked at it and I go, why would I go directly to Microsoft when I could go to this other company and get better support? Yeah, they're going to pay a little bit more. I'm not paying it, but I get to help my customer that much more, and they have more uptime versus me trying to learn the things that I need to learn with no support or little support.
Absolutely. And they have channels for that for you. So they're used to doing large and small implementations. So when something is a little bit outside of our wheelhouse, like a very custom type of setup, hybrid exchange and whatnot, they have the resources internally to help you with it. And then if they can't do it, then they escalate within Microsoft for you. So it makes it an easy path. And I think maybe a sort of second half corollary to what we're talking about here is becoming Microsoft's competency partner. So we became a silver partner for cloud, small and mid-market cloud solutions. And that has been really helpful because it gives you internal use licenses and it gives you some credentialing. So you can tell customers that you are top 5% of Microsoft partners and those sort of things that help in a marketing perspective.
Very cool. I like it.
Yeah.
All right. So my personal tip to you today is, for today is focus. And the reason I say focus is because a lot of us have to-do lists, and we love to fill those to-do lists up and mark those things off, which most of the time, for most people, that's not everybody, most people don't get most of the things marked off on the list. So they may move it to the next day, the next week, the next month. The problem is, I believe we put a lot of stuff on our to-do lists that are really not a priority. We put it down because we thought might be a good idea. Hey, maybe I need to work on marketing on a weekly basis, or maybe I need to work on this on a weekly basis, or whatever it might be. Maybe I need to clean out my basement. It doesn't really matter what it is. The point is, you need to prioritize, especially when you're running a business, because you can be all over the place in your business, and you've got to have that laser focus where you pick 1 to 2 at the most things that you can work on. And that's what you're going to work on until those things are solved. Then you move on to a couple more things. The problem is there is no such thing as multitasking. This is a facade. It's never existed. Your brain cannot be in 2 places at once. It is physically impossible. So take the time to, and it's all this stuff takes time. So a lot of us don't do it because it does take time. Take the time to go over your to-do list. Go figure out what the things that you want to accomplish in your business, in your family life, because here's what happens. A lot of us as entrepreneurs, want to do so many different things. We're going to change the world. We are going to go out there and we're going to get it, and we're going to make money for our families, and we're going to do all these great and wonderful things. And then a lot of times our families are sitting over on the side and going, hey, Dad, we're over here. Mom, we're over here. Come check what we're doing out, or your spouse. So a lot of times you got to be able to take those things and make those just as much a priority, even as your business. Now, there are going to be times where, yes, maybe you can put a little bit more focus on your business during a certain season, but it's not a forever thing. And that's where I see a lot of people getting stuck. They get stuck in this place where they're going, if I can just get 10 more customers, if I can just get 50 more customers, if I could just, then we'll be okay. Then I'll step back. Then I'll take a breath. Then we'll go on vacation. Listen, none of us are getting any younger. You need to take time for yourself, time for your family, and really go after what's important. There's a lot of times where we spend, and I'm guilty of this, and that's why I'm preaching to myself. There's a lot of times where we go in and we just sit there and we'll do things, we'll do busy work, and then we look at our lives and we go, I'm so busy. I'm so busy. And the reality is we're busy doing busy work that's going to do nothing for us long term. So you got to get out of that mindset. That's my thing for today, is just focus. Focus, cut some things out, figure out what your important things are, and just deal with them a couple at a time. And then make sure you get the family time, your relaxing time, whether you play golf, video games, whatever it is, Frisbee or what, I don't know, whatever these people do nowadays. Any of those types of things that you like to do, go ahead and make sure that you're taking time for yourself to do those. Again, there's only so many hours in a day. There's only so many years in a lifetime. There you go. All right.
Extremely well said. Good point, Jeff.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I will say, like, I throw all of the things that would be on, that you said maybe unnecessary, onto a to-do list. And it's mostly just to get it out of my head. And then some of that's, like, a lot of that stuff I know will never get done, and that's fine. It just gets pushed down to the bottom, and that's cool. But it gets it out of my head, and I can start focusing on the real stuff.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And you can do that using, a lot of times I still use, here, look, I still use a pad of paper.
They still have that?
They still have paper and pens and pencils. And
do they sell that on Amazon or?
And a lot of times, because here's the reality. It is way easier for you to jot something down. And then I can take those notes. I've noticed it was a clean copy of paper, because once I get it filled up, that usually goes into a digital document of sorts. Then I rip off that piece of paper and shred it, get rid of it, get it out of there. But I put it in a document or a note somewhere so that I know I need to get, and I separate things. There's things that need to be done now, things that need to be done a little bit from now. There's things that need to be done in the future, and so on and so forth. I agree with you. You need to get the stuff out of your head. But the thing of, we're going to attack this to-do list and get everything taken care of, is just not going to happen. It's not a reality. We'd like it to be, but it's just not, unless you're negating something. And that either comes down to sleep, family, health, whatever. And you've got to watch out for that. Amit, what were you going to say?
No, I'm in agreement. I agree with that. Absolutely.
All right, let's take a quick break, and then we'll go back. We'll get into our major topic here. I still don't know where we're going, but this will be fun. All right, our show today is brought to you by Kabuto, a lightweight RMM built for residential MSPs that let you easily monitor and manage devices, improve customer loyalty, and get more leads. Who couldn't use more leads, right? Use Kabuto to sell residential managed services such as device monitoring, patch management, managed antivirus, and more. Protect those customers. All right, Kabuto detects issues for your clients and pops up a custom branded prompt so your customers can easily get in touch with you. Keep you front of mind. When that pops up, they're going to call you. They're not going to go on Google and just try to find somebody else. You can easily manage your clients using the Kabuto online dashboard and add upgrades like manage antivirus and monitoring to clients' accounts. You can actually be proactive and get paid to do that. New to Caboodle is the ability to remotely access and control client devices with their latest module called Caboodle Live. This new module allows you to seamlessly transition from seeing a client's request for help to launching a remote session and providing solutions. Caboodle also integrates with various CRMs and PSAs to streamline your workflow. You can sign up today for a free 30-day trial at repairtechsolutions.com/Caboodle. All right, so our main topic for today was brought to us by Amit, and that is artificial intelligence. And let me read the definition before we get into this discussion, and then I want Amit to kind of take us where his thought process is. But here's the definition. The theory and development of computer systems able to perform tasks that normally require human intelligence, or lack thereof, such as visual perception, speech recognition, decision-making, and translation between languages. Now, I would say from this definition, we already have a lot of these things in place. But, Amit, where were you going when you came up with this topic and said, I want to talk about AI?
Sure. So I've had a lot of discussions lately. I will say borderline heated arguments even, which is good. People are passionate about AI. It's in the news because of people like Bill Gates and Elon Musk and many others that are trying to warn us of Terminator and the doom to come. And there's some reality to some of their concern, I believe. So I think based on what you made your tip just a few minutes ago here, there's a great segue there. You mentioned humans can only do one thing at a time. And there's a lot of research, as you said, that goes behind the fact that we cannot do multiple things at once. You can switch, obviously. You could, like an OS, like operating system switches and it goes from one item to another. We can do that. But we're not efficient, right? Human beings are not efficient at doing that. So you're best off doing one thing at a time. So that's different than computers. And that's one of the reasons that AI is becoming a hotter topic, I think, is computers are able to do multiple processing and they're able to do it at a very fast rate. So when we look at the definition, perhaps as you read, of AI, and we see the symptoms of having fast hardware and good software being things like voice recognition, and identifying pictures and whatnot, it gives it a little bit of the what we would call maybe human intelligence, though we realize it lacks, right? Sometimes scissors can look different than a normal pair of scissors, but you still know as a human, no, those are scissors. Whereas a computer would have a really tough time telling that because they just don't look like typical scissors. Things like that are bridges we haven't crossed yet. So typically when I think of machine intelligence, I'll think of it as one is just simple, straightforward algorithms. So for example, a calculator. If our measurement of computer intelligence was how quickly can we do math, I think we'd all agree that computers surpassed humans a long time ago. We don't say, here's the newest computer. Do you think it can do subtraction faster than Jeff Halash? No, that's not how we don't set the bar that way anymore. Whereas that gray area now has become things like identifying pictures, as I said, with scissors, right? Computers can do a pretty good job. Google Picasa has had face identification for a long time, even before Facebook and all that. But they're not perfect. There are times where you're going to need a human to give you the right answer because the computer doesn't have the algorithm at a level where it can extrapolate that. And I think nowadays when we talk about AI, it's not just that second level. There's a third level out there, which is some people will call it consciousness. Like, does a computer even realize that it's a thing? That one metric, other people will make the metric. Can a computer teach itself more than what the original programmer gave it? And in varying forms, I think that's the right metric. When a computer becomes more than just a data set and more than just here's my set of algorithms and I'll just keep tuning my data set. And at some point it can go and gather information and to some degree change its own program to be better. That to me is more the definition of AI that we talk about nowadays.
Okay, very good. So one of the things that I was thinking about is I was doing a little bit of research online. I was thinking about different things that I would call a form of artificial intelligence according to this definition. In things like let's take something that we use, an antivirus program. Now we understand that there's two ways to catch viruses. There's either you have definitions that because there was already a virus that had this problem or that came into the system, somebody's wrote a definition to protect against this particular thing. Then you have heuristics. And heuristics is more of it's supposed to be an on the fly, hey, this type of habit that this person's doing or this program is trying to do, in the past, it hasn't been good. So we're going to go ahead and block that because we're kind of unsure if that's going to be good for the end user or not, or for this computer system. So there's kind of the different varying things that you have out there of stuff we have now. You talk about speech recognition. Everybody's got an Alexa, sorry, and a Google Home, sorry.
I love how you apologize for both, because some people are offended by each camp. Some people are offended by both, so you covered all three.
Well, not only that,
I didn't turn my mic off, Jeff. Come on.
I know. I probably just set a bunch off too, which makes me laugh because mine are downstairs. And so, but both of those things they're there to help us, right? And we can talk to them and we can get information back, which is cool. Now, to be honest with you, do they understand what I'm saying all the time? No. We could work on that.
Yeah.
But I like where you're going with this, because I think there are some things that are coming up, not only in what we do, but also in the everyday world. A couple weeks ago, we talked about Internet of Things devices and how those are becoming a lot more prevalent in people's homes and businesses and are becoming important for us to support. Now you've got to look at things like security. Again, we want something that can change and maybe see a pattern that's bad to protect that home or business from those types of things. Now, as far as the consciousness or the intelligence where they create Skynet and start making themselves and all that kind of stuff, do you see that we're going to get to that type of point? I mean,
yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah. Right. In a word, yes.
Okay. And now what makes you believe that at this point?
So I should qualify what I said. I don't believe that machines will actually be Terminator and kill us. But I think that they will develop to a point where they'll realize that we're sort of the limiting factor, not them. And so we'll have to work around it. You know, I don't really know what that will look like, but yes, I think because of what AI really will end up meaning, that computers will get to a point where there's going to be some end goal or goals that they want, and they may or may not be counter to our goals. And when that happens, it's going to get interesting to see what happens when there's a consciousness that's smarter than us, faster than us, etc., competing with us that built it.
Well, and Jeff, you know better than any of us here how automated the construction of a car has become. And if that level of automation was pointed towards building a robot, and then an AI construct was put in charge of that for efficiency, now you do have robots being built by AI. And you look at, I mean, if you watch the Boston Dynamics videos of all the stuff that they're coming up with, and then you partner that with some of the really cool AI videos, and you put those two things together, that's kind of terrifying. There's Boston Dynamics is like really cool stuff, but it's also really scary. Like those are, if you just put like a little bit of weaponization onto any of those robots, and then you watch Black Mirror, you won't sleep for days.
I think some of these things, though, when I look at robots, even in our plant, they had to be programmed. And I think regardless, the self-learning, I think, does happen to an extent, but you still have to give that computer enough information where it's able to decipher which way is left, which way is right. When we're talking about self-driving cars, you've got a radar system, among other things, other sensors that are sensing to keep this car on the road and to keep it in a certain direction and to keep the speed at a certain rate. But I still think that everything that goes into these computers is got to come from a human being first. I don't know if they'll ever, now, will they do it like Amit said, will they do it faster than us? Absolutely. The computational math is just phenomenal of what they can do, and they can do a lot of things all at one time. And I think that's part of what makes it really, really interesting is how fast can things get done, or how much faster, and how much more complete can they be done with little to no error, because you're just running a program and it's running. Now, when you go into things like maintenance and stuff like that, I can tell you right now, our robots are running on like Windows 95. Yeah, whatever. So as far as technology wise, yeah, they're not quite there, but everything that's programmed into them, they'll do, and you can change those programs at any given time. And it literally does it thousands and thousands of times a day without fail, unless it's mechanical or there's a glitch in the system, which both of those things happen periodically.
Yeah. So part of that limitation, I think that you're getting at, is it's a core idea of what limits AI, because I think a lot of times see it as there's an algorithm. To some degree, there's an algorithm, like do this, and maybe it's adaptable. Like if this happens, then do that, and then if this happens, to do that, and then look at this thousands of data points, and now you get better at doing it, tweaks it. But I know what you're getting at. You're saying that it's made to do something, or set of things, and that's what it'll do. True AI is not like you and I right now, anyway, where you pick up a set of books, and not only do we learn what's in the books, but we like put ideas together between them, and then we may use our creativity to come up with a whole new thing out of it, because now we know XYZ, and we come up with like a new thing. So no, computers are not there yet. But I think that's the part that I believe they will cross. So think of an analogy: humans, right? So if I showed you a 1.5-year-old, if you had never seen a human, you would realize that this human child can see. It can avoid walls. If I give it a bottle, it'll pick it up and drink it, but it falls all the time. It doesn't talk well. It can't communicate. It's not helping me any. Like, I'm just supporting it. It only does what I tell it, and even that not right sometimes. So think of computers today at that level. So we have the foundation, we have the organs, we have the pieces that go in, but we haven't grown that child up to a point now where we can send it off to college, learn things, contribute back, take care of others. And I think computers will get there. I think it's hard to see it that way because we think technologically we're so advanced. But if you consider that computers, and just in general, firmware and software right now, is at a level that's likened to maybe a 1.5-year-old kid, where we have the right parts, but they're just not that useful. If you're looking at that your child is a productivity tool, no, they're not going to clean the house for you. But as that matures, I think that will become a very valuable person, because they're able to synthesize, take information, and put it together in a way that we're very limited in. Like, so let's say you and I, we're going to live until we're 10,000 years old. It's just, we don't forget, we don't get any diseases, we just get smarter and more useful. We just learn more and more and more. I think we'd both agree that we'd be much more useful at 10,000 years old than we are today. We would just have time to learn and do. So computers, I think, will hit an inflection point where it will eventually become a case of, yeah, they have teraflops and gigahertz of subprocessors and all that, and they will be able to consume information like the internet. Excuse me. They will be able to visit the entire internet, basically, consume that information just like you and I would. We'd read every single page on the internet, and imagine how much you'd know if you had time and energy to read every page on the internet, and how useful you'd become. And that's, I think, what computers will do in the blink of an eye. So what we would do in 10,000 years from a processing perspective, they will do in an hour. So now what if you were able to then grow 1,000,000 years old, and you kept consuming information and tweaking and trying, because they can do trials at a rate that's literally inhuman, right? So they're able to try something, check a data set, doesn't work, try the next thing. And the same way that they beat humans at chess, because they just are able to predict that many moves in the future and play it out, I think they'll be able to do that with life scenarios.
So with your scenario, I can tell you exactly what we'd have. One word: Skynet.
Well, I feel like Skynet implies that they're going to turn us into slaves and kill us. Like, I don't think that's necessarily the case.
No, I see what you're saying. I think you're right. The more information that can be consumed over time, obviously that same information is growing and making it better and better. Now, I will say this, and tell me where you think we're going with this. And I know this is kind of one of these, it doesn't really matter. It's kind of a controversial topic one way or another. I think there are things that go into our business that, make it something to talk about. But with artificial intelligence, if you have the time and energy to put into this stuff, do you have the hardware at this point to keep up with it? Because here's what I've seen, and I'm a little, I don't know why this is. And I've had this discussion with a lot of different people. When you look at from a hardware perspective, I usually build a machine every 3 years. That's just my minimum standard. I replace my machine and I move it behind me. And so there's nothing wrong with the machine. Usually I've just wanted to build a new machine. Now, in the last probably at least 2 machines in the last 6 years, almost, as far as processing power and what they're able to do, it's not all that impressive compared to the predecessors before that. So the other thing too is batteries. When we talk about things like batteries, I'm like, okay, if you have a company like Apple, if anybody could crack the battery code, Apple or maybe even Google, one of those two would crack this. Nobody's cracked the code. Batteries are still, as far as I'm concerned, crap for how long we've had batteries.
Yep.
And so we're not really, it's not at this exponential growth. We've kind of hit this plateau, and I'm wondering, where are we going from here?
Oh, I absolutely agree. Sorry, I don't want to monopolize it. So
no, I think that so currently, as you were saying with like the 1.5-year-old analogy, AI today is basically like a batch file is one example of just what we call automation. You just write some code and it's checking some ifs, maybe if you get kind of fancy with your batches, and it does some things. And AI today is really just like a really advanced form of automation. It's not really artificial intelligence. It's just like really good automation. That's a bit of, and I think until, like you're saying, Jeff, until like some big barriers are broken with computational ability, all these things that we're sort of like plateauing at, that's really what it's going to be. It's going to look intelligent, but it's really just really good automation. And that's not scary, actually. That's fine. I love that idea. It's when somebody breaks some amazing barrier, that's when Skynet's born and we're all doomed. But
so you believe that we are going to end up like becoming slaves to the robots?
I don't know, but when you look at how amazing, I kind of do. Yeah, it's kind of scary.
Yeah, no kidding, it's scary. Like I don't want like robots like policing us.
Yeah.
Oh. Now I will say, Rick in the chat room just put up a video, Slaughterbots.
Yeah.
8 minutes must-see video for later.
I put that in my notes in the email to you, Jeff.
Oh, I think there's a lot of. Hey, I love computers. Obviously, all of us here do, or we wouldn't be doing what we're doing. And I would love to see some advances. It's like virtual reality. That's another thing. It's like, yeah, here's when you talk about virtual reality, I think of virtual reality as Star Trek. I want a holodeck where I can walk into, I can load a program, I can hang out and do whatever. Well, not whatever, but within reason. And I can basically enjoy myself, go on a vacation, go through an old storybook, whatever, a movie, maybe be a part of a movie, something like that. With what we have today, again, it's getting better, but man, it's almost seemed like we're just plateauing and we're not breaking through that barrier. So, and I believe we're definitely going to break through the barrier. I just don't know what's holding us back right now. And I think this is kind of where even the AI comes in. We've got to break through some things in order to make those things happen.
Yeah, there are absolutely breakthroughs needed. Like you said, battery technology, for example, we deal with a battery dying after a day. We deal with a battery lasting only, 4 days and whatever, or like a year in your smoke detector. But if and when that battery technology crosses a real threshold, where a battery all of a sudden lasts a month or a year or whatever, it's like miniaturized nuclear fusion on your hand.
Yeah.
I mean, really, like where you literally don't change a battery. You buy the
Yeah.
device, it stays on forever, the life of the device at least. That will be a game changer. You're absolutely right. And so, the game changer in AI will be once I think the software algorithms get to a point where they're not limited to their own code. They start healing their own code where they see limitations or where they get learning. Can you imagine a software environment that wasn't just an IDE or a tool set, but actually could go and fix itself? It would create new tools on its own. And as soon as you hit that inflection point, which, yeah, we're not there yet, but once we get there, which I think we will, it will be basically what teams of developers at big companies are doing in the course of weeks and months in project planning will be happening in minutes or hours sometimes. Like, it will be incredible.
Now, don't we already have that with Windows 10?
The ultimate operating system. You're right. So I did leave that off. You're right.
It's self-healing. It's itself, right? Windows 10 was going to put us all out of business. Everybody said.
I feel like we have different definitions of the word healing, but
yeah, is that Windows 10 is the system that breaks itself so that it can fix itself, and then yes, that is technically self-healing. No, I'm looking at an article that came out a little late last year, and I think it was overblown. It's probably an exaggeration, so it's not as exciting as it may sound. But Facebook has a lot of AI running its systems in the back end, and I'm sure Google does too. And Facebook had to shut down one of its AI control systems because it was kind of getting out of, well, they didn't know what it was doing. And basically what happened was there were two data centers and there was an AI kind of controlling the flow between them. And they decided that English was an incredibly inefficient language, and they invented their own language. Between the two of them, they collaborated, these AI systems, and invented their own language. And then thus far after that, we're communicating in this new language. And they were using I think they were using like our alphabet and stuff. So like you could look at it and you could see what they were, like if you looked at the logs, you could see the transmissions back and forth, but it made no sense to anyone. But they were still functioning and doing their job and actually doing it better than originally programmed. And but the Facebook data scientists were looking at it going like, we actually don't know what they're doing anymore because they're not speaking in a language that we can understand, and our logs are meaningless. And so if anything goes wrong with them, we won't be able to troubleshoot. So they did shut them down and kind of reset them to ground zero because I don't think it was like they were scared. They kind of made it like in the media, they kind of made it sound like, oh, AI construct shut down because it spirals out of control. And it's like, no. They just weren't going to be able to troubleshoot down the road. But it was interesting. Like these two systems started talking to each other and we're like, hey, you know what? English is kind of a stupid language. So let's invent our own more efficient form of communication. And, that is kind of the beginning. And then, it's running on server level hardware. So it's not just sitting there on a PC. It's got some more resources to it. But I don't know. I found that interesting and sort of like the beginning of what we're kind of talking about, of like systems learning and adapting and creating their own resources at that point.
So I have another word, actually a couple words: war games.
You guys are both so like doomsday. There's no other possible end scenario here other than like we all just die, right? Like, well,
if you watch any science fiction whatsoever,
fiction, science fiction,
yes, science fiction,
yes.
Which is kind of what we're talking about a little bit.
Yeah,
the humans never make it.
They're sacks of water and bones. So,
that's right.
Yeah. Hey, in the Matrix, there are millions of survivors.
That's right. Hey, battery source. There you go. Battery source done.
Oh wow. We talk about hardware and every time we talk about this now, I have this picture of the Terminator. Like I see like the desert wasteland, and I'm thinking, why are we even pursuing this? I don't want to die. All right. So anyway, you're right. We stopped looking at hardware specs. I've written a small article on our website about this before, where we 15, 20 years ago would look at the side of a software box and say, okay, do I have the right megahertz, the right gigabyte, or the megabytes at that time of RAM, hard drive space? And they say, yeah, my computer can run this. Or, hey, I want to run this. I need to buy a new computer, whatever it is. I upgrade it. And about, I don't know, 5-7 years ago, that really like was not a thing. Like you don't look at, I mean, if you even go to buy a box of software, you don't look at it and say, oh, I don't have enough gigabytes of RAM for this. Like unless you're gaming mostly or doing server and stuff, most consumers are not they're not considering their hardware anymore because you just assume it's going to work and it's going to be powerful enough to do what you want to do. It's partially because of the advent of like cloud-based stuff. So if you're running Facebook and Gmail, yeah, of course you're rendering JavaScript and other things on your web browser, so you need some power, but you don't need the power that it takes to run those applications. The applications are run on a server somewhere in the cloud, and that bucket of resources, I think that you were mentioning earlier for AI and having the hardware for it, I think is going to be this cloud fabric, whether it's things like Azure and AWS, or whether it's private cloud, at least in the beginning. But it's going to be these systems of servers, I think, that are going to be the bed for growing all of this AI type of functionality. And I think it's pretty limitless. I think it's not going to be restricted by computing power, because when a very fast deterministic computer realizes that it needs more hardware, I think, for better or for worse, it will hack other hardware to get access to it without us even realizing, or even realizing it's being malicious. It'll just say, oh, look, there's a whole cloud out there called AWS. Why don't we just take it over? And it'll take it and run.
And you're not worried about dying from robots.
As long as it's in the cloud, we're good. It's someone else's server. It's all good.
It's a computer somewhere else in a warehouse. Yeah. I don't have to worry about it.
That's right. Yeah, it's in the cloud, man. Like, it's up there.
Oh, man. You know, it's funny because when you think about the costs, and now I never buy like the top of the line processors, the most RAM I can possibly put in a system, or even the best video. Well, I don't buy the best video card. Let me put it that way.
There's always a better video card.
There's always a better one, and they're a lot more money. But what I do, so here's my normal cycle. Just talking about hardware, every 3 years I build a new system. And about a year and a half into that system, because a lot of times I'll just move the video card over. About a year and a half into that system, I will replace the video card. Well, this last time, I'm coming up on 3 years, and I'm like, yeah, I could replace the video card, but I don't really need to, because I can play now I don't play at 4K because I think it's a horrible experience at best, even if you're throwing the most hardware at it. But I do play at 2K, which is basically double 1080p in my card, which is a 980 Ti. It's an old card, but it works. And so I kind of buy the things kind of middle of the road. Now that's probably a little higher end. That's not the highest end, but I'm just seeing this thing where it's like everything's slowing down. So hopefully, I'm hoping, because I still like the bright, shiny new things. I'm hoping that somebody comes out and breaks through this barrier to fix some of these things. Man, talking about batteries, I would give me a laptop that I could sit there and compute on for a week solid before I had to charge it. Mm-hmm. Man, people would be in heaven.
A game changer. Yeah, that's a breakthrough.
And I'm just surprised. So here, everybody remembers this. Here's an analogy that really blows my mind. So remember when cell phones came out? Cell phones were, I know we're this side tangent, sorry. Cell phones came out. We had back in, it was probably 92. I remember I was in North Carolina.
I don't remember that far away. I was like 5.
I had a bag that was yay big with it was basically a radiator. It would burn your hands and face off if you got too close to it. It sat in my car, and I had what looked like a bat phone that sat on there. And the handset was this big, huge rectangle square thing with buttons on the back. And that was my cell phone, and you pay per minute. It was very expensive. I don't even know. To be honest with you, I couldn't afford one at the time. I don't know why I had one. Anyways.
Because it was cool.
It was cool. Exactly.
Yeah, you had to have it.
Exactly. I thought I was going to use it. I got it from Radio Shack. I got it on credit, whatever. Anyways, so I went, now move forward. Now all of a sudden you start getting these small phones. Phones get smaller and smaller and smaller. Now we're still at the dumb phone stage, but you get the StarTech. It's a flip open phone. And everybody's like, ooh, that looks like the Star Trek communicator. Look at that. That's really cool. And all of a sudden we got to the switch where we go, wait a minute. We need to put the power of a computer in a person's hands. We go back to, different science fiction books from way back when. And you'll always see these things where people had basically computers in their hand. And so then we went to these smartphones. Well, now, screen's not big enough. Now I think we've kind of settled in 7-8 inches is probably about as big as we're going to go for a phone. 6 inches is probably the sweet spot, unless people are going to start taking tablets, which I don't think they will. But you've got this computer in your pocket that you can do a lot of things with. But even with that, now these phones have gotten bigger. You can't do everything. And I'll tell you, the number one thing that you can't do that doesn't work well in any scenario, unless you jump through a bunch of hoops and rub the top of your head and your belly at the same time, and that's printing. On a tablet or a phone, they both suck very badly. So I think when I think about barriers to entry and what we're trying to do to move ahead, I'm with you, Amit. I'm hoping that this stuff will start to come together. And here is what I think is going to help with these types of things, moving into not only the hardware and software, the artificial intelligence. That is things like, I don't know, Apple, Microsoft, and Google actually playing together in the same sandbox, not caring about who's got what market share. And I think that right now is probably a big stop. Think about what you have going on with the space program. You've got SpaceX. Why? Because NASA is virtually shut down. We don't really see the need for paying for all that stuff to go wherever, where no man's gone before. A lot of Star Trek references. And so, but we've got this person or this private group that put this stuff together and says, hey, we're going to do it a little bit differently. We're going to have reusable rockets. We're going to land them back down so that they're not destroyed. We can reuse them again. And this is the type of thing that's going to happen. But I'm hoping that eventually everybody gets on board and comes together. Now, does anybody here think that that's actually going to happen, or is it my pie in the sky dream?
No, that's the thing. Like, when you talk about how a tablet prints poorly, it's because a tablet shouldn't have to print. Like, it's the start of a paperless world. Like, why would you print the stupid thing out anyway? Like, it's just on here and you only need it for however long it takes to read it. So, but then the sharing is the thing. It's like, why can't we all have like a, Star Wars or Star Trek kind of thing where you just like, here's my tablet, my thing, and here's the thing I'm looking at, and I want you to be able to see it. And I just kind of go like, here you go. It's because what you said, nobody's collaborating. There's like 10 different at minimum, like different, systems and companies doing this crap, and like nobody's working together. There's not one unifying way to just say, hey, I'm looking at this. Now you can look at it. It's now you either email an attachment or you share it with OneDrive or Google Drive or whatever. It's like, it's all it's a mess, and they have to have the right app and they have to be logged in the right way, and you have to know what they're thinking. It's like, but if I have a piece of paper, I can just show it to you. That's just way easier. So, but that's the way. But there's no reason the tablets couldn't do that. We have NFC and Bluetooth and Wi-Fi and proximity things. Like, there's no reason why I couldn't just bump your thing and you would see what I'm seeing. But it's not happening because people aren't, the companies aren't trying to do that. And that's just, we'll get there, I guess. Maybe it doesn't seem like they're. I mean, I still can't watch Amazon Video on my Chromecast, and there's commercial interest for that.
Why would you want to watch Amazon Video on your Chromecast?
I don't enough to care. Like I just don't. So now I'm paying for Amazon Prime and I can't watch their video. That's annoying. But anyway, that's just an example of something where there's an actual commercial driving interest to make that happen, and they won't do it because they won't work together. And so until the AI takes over and forces them to work together.
So Amit, let's go ahead and take this home because we've kind of gone long in this topic. But where do you see the future going from, or where do you want the future to go? I guess is a better question.
I think the last thing that both of you talked about actually is where I'd like to see is more collaboration. I know obviously intellectual property laws and commercial interests and making money will prevent a lot of that sharing. But right now it's sort of a mad dash where I think a lot of companies are trying to be the first to put the stake in the ground saying we have true AI. So one, as you hit on in the beginning, we don't even have a true definition of true AI. But everyone, I think most of the players in the market space have an idea of what AI will be, and mostly that's consuming information and being able to change itself and its algorithms based on that information consumption. So trying to get to that inflection point, basically, where you can let your AI software bot loose on the internet or with information stores, and it will just become like super useful. It'll create its own programs and subroutines and everything to do more than it was originally designed to do. Similar to a human, right? It does more as it grows. I think it's gonna be similar to that. So ultimately, I would love to see some of these companies collaborate, but the commercial interests and the IP laws will probably make it so what's happening right now will continue, where every big company anyway, is trying to rush to be the first to have that AI machine and be in control of it.
Brad, any closing thoughts?
No, I think we beat that one up pretty good. As far as, I mean, I'm in the same camp. I wish that more people would work together. If you look at like the scientific community and the Big Hadron Collider at CERN, that was not a project of any one university or any one group of scientists. That was a collaboration of researchers across the planet. They got together and created this amazing thing that everybody thought was so powerful it was going to create a black hole and destroy our planet. Like it was great. And that's a feat that was only accomplished because of a non-selfish motivation across a huge group of collaborating researchers. And it would be great if we could get that in the tech world, but probably not going to happen for a while because, commercial interests and individual IPs and stuff like that. So for now, it's going to be a race, and then maybe we'll get more. Maybe basically what happened is I think more companies will just, like Google and Apple and maybe Facebook and Microsoft, are just going to start absorbing more companies, and that's how we're going to get our collaboration. And then you'll get some leaps and bounds. So.
I heard it was last year Google averaged one AI company or AI related acquisition every 3 days.
Oh wow! There you go.
Yeah, so I mean, there's a lot at stake here, and it's big, as you said, it's bigger than any one country. It's bigger than any one company or country, really, because as you both have predicted, the robots are coming, and we want to know who's going to be in charge of them.
That's right. So I will end with this: artificial intelligence. We all got to die sometime.
I feel like we could have just started and ended the show with that line.
No,
Wow.
I mean, I do appreciate you bringing this topic because it's not something that's normally talked about, and it's interesting to see how it intertwines into what we do in our businesses and how it's going to affect us as a society moving forward. Because the reality is, a lot of people are concerned with computers going down to this palm-sized device, and they're like, "Hey, normal computer repair, we're not going to be able to do that anymore because people are doing everything on their phones." Well, they're not quite, but it is pushing towards that way. So there is a big concern that we're going to be out of business here shortly unless we get rid of what we do now and transition into something new. All right, let's take a quick break and then we will come back I think we have some voicemails and emails. Our show today is brought to you by FreshBooks. A quick question for all you trailblazing freelancers. If you could reclaim up to 192 hours a year of your precious time, would you? Absolutely. Our friends at FreshBooks, who make ridiculously easy to use cloud accounting software for freelancers, are the architects behind this question, and for good reason. By simplifying tasks like invoicing, tracking expenses, and getting paid online, FreshBooks has drastically reduced the time it takes for over 5 million people to deal with their paperwork. If that's not enough incentive, the FreshBooks platform has been rebuilt from the ground up. They've taken simplicity and speed to an entirely new level and added powerful new features. Oh, and if you're doing the math, 192 hours works out to 2 working days per month. When tax time does roll around, you'll find a tidy summary of your expense reports, your invoice details, your sales tax summaries, and a lot more. If you're a freelancer listening to this and not using FreshBooks yet, now would be the time to try it. FreshBooks is offering a 30-day unrestricted free trial to my listeners. To claim it, just go to freshbooks.com/podnuts. Enter Podnutz in the How Did You Hear About Us section. All right, let's go ahead and answer a couple. Let's listen to a couple of voicemails. And let's see.
Hi, Jeff and the Podnutz people. Just giving a call to find out. Now we have a full 12 months of this year. What conferences do you think we should be taking or visiting, as well as trainings, in order for when 2019 comes around, we'll be better professionals? That continuous learning that we have to do in the IT field. Just wanted to see if anyone knew any good ones to go to, not just the big ones, the VMwares, the Microsoft Ignites, and the Spiceworks. Want to hear everyone's opinion. Bye.
Thank you for that voicemail. So I'll start off by saying you need to be in Chicago. There you go.
The IT Compass, right?
IT Owners Compass, yes.
Okay.
So definitely head out there August 24th through the 26th. This year, that's the one place you want to be. Where else are you guys? Are you guys looking to go anywhere else? Is there any other types of events that are tickling your fancy? You go, man, I always wanted to go there, and I've heard good things about it, and maybe I might check it out this year.
So I'm registered for the IT Owners Compass, and also just recently registered for the ASCII group.
Okay, ASCII is a great group, so there's a lot of good stuff that goes on there. Brad?
Yeah, I definitely want to go to the Compass event in Chicago. I had a pretty good experience going to. Totally drawing a blank. It was in Phoenix. Huge tech conference.
CompTIA?
Yep, that's the one. And it was great, although focused on kind of because of the sponsorship, I think, and the way that that show has kind of evolved. I think it's definitely focused on the larger scale MSP model and trying to push everyone into that direction. And it's like they're not really looking at the solo/small tech that supports the small to medium business. They want everyone to go to that big MSP model. So I got a lot out of it, and it was good exposure. But I probably won't go back for a while just because it's just a different business model than what I'm looking at. Yeah, I think I just kind of go along, and like a problem will come up and I go, okay, I need to dive into this and learn from that. I would like to do some of these, like what is the one that Twit pushes all the time and it sounds great? Tech TV.
IT Pro TV?
Yeah, that's the one. I don't know why I'm missing names right now, but
That's
yeah,
what I'm here for, man.
yeah, you're perfect. This is like a yes and improv style. Yeah, IT Pro TV sounds like a great resource. I did use lynda.com for a little while too, when I was trying to learn a little bit more about like web design and things. So, but yeah, I just kind of learn as I go, and I'm trying to come up with the time to like do something like an IT Pro TV subscription so I can make use of it. That time never seems to come, so I just read a lot and play with things, and go to conferences when I can. There's some small business conferences that come up here in Southern California that I think travel around across the country that I go to when I can. My vendors make vendor. Oh, if you want to go to conferences and you don't want to spend a bunch of money, do make vendor partnerships, because a lot of times your rep will send you free invites to go to things that are local. Which
cool. It's a good idea.
Yeah. Because they sponsor those events and they can get you in for free. It's like, hey, if I can go and hang out for a couple hours and learn something and get a free lunch out of it, yeah, I'm gonna go. It's a 10-minute drive, sure.
I think the other thing to look at too, it's not just about learning something, although that's important. If you're not going to learn something, you shouldn't be going. But I also think it's about collaborating and coming together and knowing that you're not out there by yourself. A lot of us, and there's a lot of listeners to this show that listen and they're one-person shops. And they're like, well, wait a minute, I can't take away from my business and go to this event or that event because my business would shut down. Well, here's the thing. You need to figure out what you're doing wrong in order to not have the time to be able to get away from your business and go do what you need to do. And, that might sound a little harsh. It's just a reality. The way I look at things, there's an obstacle in front of you. There's two things you can do. You can either go around the obstacle, you'll figure out a way, or you can lay down on the ground and wet on yourself. Those are the only two things. That's all that's happening.
I love how simple it is.
It's real simple.
One or the other.
So I look at it as, I don't feel like wetting on myself, so I'm going to figure out a way to get around that obstacle. There is always a way. You just have to step back and figure that out. All right. Enough said on conferences. But yeah, if anybody else that's listening is going to any conferences, definitely send us an email, podnutz@podnutz.com, and send us where you're going and why. And we'll definitely bring those up on the show. All right, let's go ahead and hit this second voicemail.
Hey, Jeff, this is Kurt from CS Comp. CS Computers.
Thank you, Kurt.
Just wanted to ask you guys a quick question. I see you got Paco on the air right now. I was just wondering, what kind of business insurance companies do you guys use, or do you have a good recommendation for one, since I just started my business recently after one that I worked for closed its doors after 7 years. So, yeah, that's my main question. Let me know what your recommendations are. And you guys have been having a great show. And I hope to see you guys soon. Thank you. Bye.
Sometimes these voicemails aren't as timely. It's taken us a while. We've had technical difficulties, but I was able to get everything working this week. So that's why I'm bringing these voicemails up now. They're a few weeks old. Tech insurance. Where do you go? Who can you talk to? What do you do?
You want to go first, Amit?
Okay, sure. Yeah. So I think it's worth talking about the different types of insurance. There's general liability, which I think that's probably what we all always carry. And then there's E&O, the errors and omissions, or what some people will call cyber liability or forms of cyber liability. And so the first is someone slips and falls, or you have a robbery. I mean, those are the standard things. Fire. That's all generally in your general liability. I sounded awkward. That's usually in your general liability policy, and we usually have that. I mean, that's the standard when people say insurance. What has become a hot topic more lately is the cyber liability. So, say for example, we do web applications. So let's say nothing is lost physically, but a programmer makes a mistake where now there's a data breach, and so on an application that we're working on, luckily it's never happened, but let's just say passwords get exposed, or we accidentally post people's social security numbers on a website, or medical records. We do medical device apps and things. That could be a real problem where the solution is not, okay, fine, I'll buy you a new server, or we'll do the labor for free. The solution and it's really going to center around, how do we make that client whole again if they had $50 million of damage, or $5 million of PR damage, however you want to gauge that. That's where these other policies go in. So I think to directly answer your question, we use Hartford. We have for years for our general liability. I think for cyber liability, there are so many new options, especially because it's a new field relatively. Insurance is a very old industry, and they have not, I think, pivoted quickly enough to cover these gaps in insurance in the cyber world. So things like what happens if your cloud platform has an issue. So it wasn't even necessarily your fault, but you chose Azure and Azure had a problem that let customer data out. Sort of tracking that liability and making sure that the client is made whole again. I mean, that's important. So, there are places that say they specialize in it, like Hiscox. I think we've gotten several flyers from them and whatnot for E&O and cyber liability, but they're out there. I would say on that end, you should just research. General liability is easy. They know how to quote it and go with any reputable brand. I think it's probably fine. But on the other side, for E&O and cyber liability, it's industry that I think a lot of the people that even sell the product don't really know about it.
All right, Brad.
Yeah, I kind of or agree with a lot of that. We use State Farm for general liability. It's very affordable. I mean, I think we spend like $35 a month on $2 million of liability. I mean, it's easy. But I agree that when I got deeper into the conversation with our agent, that it was like, this is what I'm worried about. We direct people into platforms. We don't necessarily provide the platform, but the decision-making process is definitely facilitated by our input, and so therefore we might have some liability into whether their AWS thing goes down or their Azure thing goes down or whatever we recommended. Maybe we recommend a VoIP company or something, and so how does that play into our general liability or errors and omissions and whatever? I definitely picked State Farm because I met an agent at a networking event who was very, he was willing to have long conversations about things, and he was very personable and he was very helpful and knowledgeable. So also part of who you pick, it doesn't really matter what company you pick, find an agent in your area who's willing and able to provide a good service. I mean, it just depends, do they know what they're talking about? Are they willing to look things up for you? Are they there? So, I call my insurance agent and talk to him and find out, hey, I'm going to hire somebody. What do I need to know from your perspective? And he'll talk to me for like 45 minutes about all the crap that I need to understand about hiring and how, in California, especially, we have workers' comp, and I know every state probably has workers' comp, but how specifically it applies to California. What does that mean? What are my costs going to be? So I've really appreciated having this partnership with this agent. So that's why I chose State Farm, was because this was a State Farm rep, and he has worked with me, and the price is great. But I still think I agree with what Amit said. Like the insurance industry is an old industry, and I don't know that my current agent's really equipped through State Farm to understand all of like we've had long conversations about what kind of liabilities I might take on aside from just breaking somebody's window or something, and I still feel like I could benefit from having a conversation with a company that kind of specializes in this field as far as like what kind of cyber liabilities we take on. I don't feel as exposed as I did before I got this business liability insurance and stuff, but I do sort of feel like there's maybe a little gap, and I hope that I don't get in trouble before I kind of make sure that that's covered. But that so it's still, I'm actually looking up Hiscox and doing that on the side, which is all right. Anyway.
So before we go any further on this, I will just say that these are our opinions and our opinions only. We're not insurance salespeople or whatever. So take it for what it's worth and at your own risk. The only thing you can always be sued for anything, and you should have general liability. That is a good place to start. Here's the reality of it. On my contract, it basically, and I tell my customers this, it basically says I'm responsible for nothing. You're gonna sign it, sign it. Not gonna sign it, take your computer and go. It's really that simple. I'm going to do everything within my power not to make the matters worse. But a lot of times when you're being brought broken things, and we're talking about data loss and things like that. Now, when you're doing businesses, you have to have a little bit more. You got to be more aware of what's going on, because you are doing a regular thing where you're helping them in their business on a regular basis, whether it's doing backups and all these different things. But at the same time, a lot of us are using third-party companies. If a Datto loses all your data, they're on the hook for that. So this is kind of a trickle-down effect. But definitely, I would start with your insurance agent first, and then I know there was, I've checked them out, and I think I still have a quote. I think it was like techinsurance.com or something like that. They've been around for a long time. You can just research tech insurance and you'll see it come up. They've been around for a very long time, because I remember I checked back with them back in 2010. So it was a long time ago. But yeah, just see what you can find, but definitely get that general liability just to protect you from the everyday events. And I think you can do that a lot of times through your rep, and then find out, if you're doing, now it goes into a whole nother realm. If you're doing any type of compliance out there are certain things that compliance wise, you're going to be required to have, and those are going to change over time. So you have to be aware of that. If you're going to do doctor's offices or anybody's taking your credit cards or anything like that, and you've got to be compliant too when you're supporting these people on your own personal network and whatnot. So make sure that you look at all those different angles. But for the day-to-day, you're bringing me your computer, I'm fixing it. General liability will cover 99.9% of that. All right. Well, I think let's go ahead and we're one more small little thank you. And if you all want to support this show, you can go to patreon.com/computer repair podcast. And I want to thank our newest Patreon supporter, Rod Miller. I want to thank all of our Patreon supporters for your continued support. You guys are doing awesome, guys and gals. And we really appreciate it. And we're getting up to our goal. So if we're helping you, like I said, it's 4 shows a month. At $1 a show, it's $4, and that also gets you into our secret Facebook group where you can collaborate with other business owners who are doing this all the time. And it's a great to share ideas and get information. All right, let's go ahead and Amit, if you'd like to give us one parting thought and let people know where they could find you.
Absolutely.
Your day-to-day stuff.
My parting thought is that I don't think Skynet's going to happen. And I don't think AI is evil. So that's my thought. You could always reach myself and my company at techvoo.com. That's TECHVOO, or the franchise side, techvoofranchise.com.
Awesome. Appreciate you coming out and appreciate you bringing the topic. It was a good one.
Thank you.
It was entertaining, fun, and informative at the same time.
But you still believe that robots will kill us,
going
right?
to die.
Yeah. Okay. As does Brad, I'm sure. Yeah.
A little bit.
All right, Brad, why don't you give us one parting thought and let people know where they can find you?
Continue to find ways to have fun with your tech. Keep it fresh and we're computer business owners because this is what we love to do. So don't lose sight of that, because there's a lot of downsides to running a business. It's kind of exhausting. So just keep having fun with it, and it'll continue to be like the right thing for you. And then I did have another thing, and I can't remember. Oh, the Facebook group is awesome. Keep it. What is it, like 4 shows a month? So $4 a month minimum. That's nothing, and it contributes back to this network that has given me a tremendous amount of information that's helped me for long time. And the new Facebook group is almost annoyingly helpful. Like my Facebook app that's been silent for so long is now constantly going on, popping up notifications and things that I actually want to see and interact with, and I've been enjoying it. So just wanted a second, hey, get in there and do that, because
awesome.
It's very helpful.
I appreciate it. And thank you for coming out and sharing with us today, Brad. It's been really good. And did you say where people could find you at?
Don't find me. No, find me on Facebook at the secret Podnutz group, or Brad at TTCScomputerservices.com.
Awesome. Appreciate it. All right, you guys can come join us live for the Computer Repair Podcast every Sunday at 4 p.m. Eastern over at podnuts.com/CRP Live. Join in on the conversation by hanging out in the chat room. You can send an email to podnuts@podnuts.com or leave a voicemail at 734-335-1000. I want to thank everyone for listening and subscribing to the show. We'll see you next time on the Computer Repair Podcast.